my people. Welcome back as we continue on the road to Season 3. I found some more lore that was submitted for the Torrosan race, and it really rounds them out quite well. This edition also includes 2 more sub-races, and because we are only going to go with 2 sub-races for the Torrosan, we're going to need to vote for all 3, including the previously mentioned Torrolings. Alright, we're going to kick this off with lore submitted by Will, the Dizzy Wizard. He writes, a historical sport rich in culture for the Torrosans was beast fighting. The sport would take place in large arenas or a coliseum. In this event, strong male Torrosans would take up a brightly colored, usually red cloth and wave it while avoiding assaults from dangerous beasts and animals. Since the cloth was not always enough to anger the opposition, fighters would often hide strong-smelling meats or substances on their outfits behind the cloth to get the animals to charge. The outfits these fighters wore included extravagant customary hats that exaggerated the fighter's horns and excessive amounts of jewelry, increasing as a fighter became more famous. People successful in beast fighting could become incredibly famous and celebrated. The most legendary early beast fighter was Juan Hernando Guerrilla Torre. His most famous battle was against a massive spider beast known as the King of Spiders. He sported a signature red and yellow striped cloth and was a master in the arena. He skillfully tamed and slayed the creature, solidifying his status in the history of beast fighting. A statue of Juan Hernando Guerrilla Torre was erected in the capital of Torrosan, and it is now a famous tourist location in the country. Looks like we have another exhilarating sport for the culture of the Torrosan, and you can spot the similarities. Both players included the need to be dexterous with a cloth. Great minds think alike, but let's be clear, both of these sports are vastly different, and it's apparent why being a pro beast fighter seems a bit more lucrative. It seems more dangerous. I mean, the King of Spiders sounds like it's straight from Monster Island, perhaps? I bet you Atlas poached it and smuggled it into the city. But I digress. Greater horn size is a sought-after and envied trait among Torrosan males, as they are more attractive to females and create a more intimidating appearance. Ha ha ha! This is a great twist on the lore that was submitted about Torrosans and how they saw their horns down as a mark of being a serious athlete or of being of a disciplined lifestyle, a safety precaution that shows humility, respect, and responsibility. But this lore right here insinuates that there is a demographic with a deviant preference, one less formal. Some Torrosan females seem to be attracted to full horns, so I like how this kind of adds some variance to the culture. Torrosan's natural hair colors can be a deep black, dark or light brown, reddish brown, orange tinted blonde, or white. Nice. Now we have a color palette to go off of. Anything outside of this would likely be a one-off or unnatural. A decently sized portion of the Divergent District is made up of Torrosans. They act as one pillar of the community. Excellent. Now we have a geographical sense of where most of this population resides in Haven. Jacob Bastian and Jeremiah Oliver got together in Discord and collaborated on a nice little package of lore for the Torrosan, so let's see what they have for us. They write, the Torrosan have a game unique to them called Headstrong, where they butt heads and push against each other until one gets defeated. They use this game for honor, fun, to decide who gets to court the ladies, and even as a simple hello between neighbors. I really like that one because I can picture it. It seems equivalent to arm wrestling, but competitive with little setup time. And it kind of reminds me of how seriously I took pencil fighting when I was in 5th grade. So add another sport to the books for the Torrosans. Torrosans seem pretty competitive, huh? All right. Then they write, the Torrosan are the only people with natural occurring golden colored eyes. Ooh, that's a pretty rad color for eyes, I must say. What made you decide to go with gold colored eyes? Was it at all inspired by the art that we've been using for the Torrosans? How it's kind of like they have like gold and brown accents. I'm curious. And then they say the Torrosans are natural mechanics. They have spent centuries mastering many different types of machines, and as such, even their children have the knowledge of basic engineering. Okay, this race just got a little bit more substance, a little more thick. A little more thick. Engineering is a nifty trade for those that will, not pursue sports, or perhaps unable to compete physically or mentally in sports, or any kind of military occupation. That's a good one. I like that. All right. Torrosan are extremely family driven. They are very defensive when it comes to their families and close friends. They will always back a friend up in a sticky situation and will always be there for their family no matter what. This is exactly what we want when we're expanding and building on culture. I encourage anyone who is creating a Torrosan to really embrace details like this. And if your character is a deviant, then I bet their justification will be even more interesting as to why they aren't family oriented. So that is a great one. I really like that one. So let's talk about Dulaman skirmishes. The Torrosan were the second race to migrate to Haven behind the Dulaman, which often resulted in disputes over land and resources, producing high racial tension between the two. The Torrosan viewing the Dulaman as thieves, cutthroats, and thugs, while the Dulaman viewed the Torrosan as arrogant, unnatural invaders. This tension has died out over the centuries. However, as both races have been met with bigger issues and have often been forced to work together to survive, I like that touch. It forces them to mend the relationship between them. That's a great touch, because everything that had happened in the past 2 seasons, I can totally see that bringing communities together. Awesome. That is a nuke of a lore submission right there, because, ladies and gentlemen, we now have a rivalry race. We now have a rivalry between races. And though it seems light and civilized now, anything could disturb the peace, between these two cultures in Haven City, That was a hell of a collaboration, Jacob and Jeremiah. Thank you. J&J World Builders at our service. Squid Baron enters the Forge, and he writes, the Torrosan have a long tradition of tailoring, and the richest in Haven are willing to pay top dollar for a Torrosan made suit, whereas the non-Torrosan buyers tend to prefer the typical black, white, and gray suits. Torrosan create elaborate multicolored costumes for each other. Add tailoring to the list of favorite occupations for the Torrosans. I kind of find it funny that the most athletic race thus far are quite the artisans. I'm hoping when you say that the Torrosans or a Torrosan made coat, when you talk about a Torrosan made coat, I'm hoping you aren't talking about leather, because that would be one hell of a character idea, the Torrosan butcher tailor. But good one right there, good one, tailor. That's classy. Horns are seen as a sign of manhood among Torrosan. For that reason, Torrosan men who lose their horns or can't properly grow them are willing to spend substantial money on replacements. For most, synthetic horns will suffice, but some seek out donors or even kill others for their horns. Horn enlargement hormones are a common ploy, although there are some which allegedly work. Another addition to the social perception of the Torrosan horn, the horn files. What this lore tells me is if you aren't an athlete, you probably grow your horns, and if you can't grow your horns, you purchase or kill for them. Yikes. It seems like there is definitely some toxic vanity involved here, and it's starting to make sense why those with sawed down horns seem a bit more civilized. It's like a whole different philosophy, it seems, and it reminds me of like real world Japan, and in each end of their social spectrum, you have your mature adults who got the suit and tie and they're on the subway to work, falling asleep, which completely contrasts with young punks in the alleyway who wear their coats on their shoulders and with their sleeves flailing about. That kind of picture is what's being painted in my head. And what do you see in yours? You know, I imagine people interpret these things different ways. I would like to know, what do you think about this variance and how people perceive long horns, short horns, sawed down horns? What kind of dynamic do you think that creates in the Torrosan culture? Would definitely like to know that. Head to the comment section and see what you think. Good. I like that, Squid Baron. It's a good one. He also submitted some history for this race. Let's see. Banya Soldat is a hero of Torrosan legend, a cavalier who led his people through the desert into what would one day become haven. The tales say that he was born of a union between a Torrosan herdsman and the rising sun, and that at the age of 14 he tamed the great horned beast known as Hadhayosh. When it tried to attack his hometown, Banya fought in many battles astride Hadhayosh, becoming a symbol of Torrosan courage and strength, as well as an emblem of mercy to enemies. It is said that after 150 years of life, Banya rode Hadhayosh into the sunrise and ascended to godhood, where the two of them became a great constellation of 112 stars, one for each enemy they defeated but spared from death. Statues and images of Banya and Hadhayosh are common in Torrosan art. That's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. It's a beautiful slab of lore, and it fits perfectly for this race. It's amazing. It's amazing how minds think alike. We have two historical figures so far with very similar sounding names. You got Hoyoshna or Hoyosa, and then you got Hadhayosh, and the one who rides him, Banya Soldat. Nice. Is that just a coincidence though? I'm wondering, could both of the authors of that lore, could you just put in the comment section what inspired you with these names like Hadhayosh and then Hoyoshna? I'm just wondering, like, how did you land on something so similar to each other? It's almost perfect. I'm dying to know. All right. And so that's that for Squid Baron. Thank you, Squid. Henri checks in with some lore. Henri writes, the Torrosan native language is still often spoken in private when with other Torrosans and in family situation. That's nice. That fits well with their close-knit communities and how close they are with their family. That it would make sense why they would be like that. Then he writes, then Henri writes, in Torrosan culture, whichever male has the sharpest horns tends to be the alpha of the area, leading to most males today sharpening their horns daily. I would imagine that this is probably common in the non-athletic martial community. So people who were decided to go a different path in life, sharpening their horns is probably more popular to them. I mean, at this point, it seems both sides of the coin are pretty knee deep in their perception of and how they perceive the horn, which I think is just great. It's great. For Torrosans body piercings, body piercings are a common way to express yourself and are their equivalent of modern tattoos. Interesting. I'm getting a Xerxes vibe. It's just a lot more hairy, which is the opposite. Xerxes, he was bald, and I don't think he had a pubic hair on him at all. Torrosan families are normally organized as herds, and each herd has their own unique flag. Torrosans are proud people and often display their herd's flag on their homes and oftentimes their weapons too. That's so cool. That's cool. That's bombshell lore right there. I mean, as a Torrosan character, I think it would be real fun to incorporate my family, my herd's flag into how I'm role playing. Like, you know, if I was like Captain America, it's just instead of the American flag shield, it would be my you get what I'm saying? That's a good touch. I like that. I like it. I like it a lot. All right, now let's talk sub races. In our first video of the Torrosan race, we introduced the Torroling sub race. Today, we have 2 more to put on the table. And for the Torrosans, we're only going to kick it off with 2 sub races. So we're going to have to vote. So I'm going to cover all 3. And then you all will access the poll right here in this video. And vote for the sub race you want to see the most. The top 2 will be selected. And I'm going to allow the creators of these sub races to reveal themselves. I don't want to put anyone on blast. I don't know how well people do with losing. So, I mean, I don't really think about it as losing. We're just going to kick it off with 2 sub races. Later down the line, we might expand on the Torrosan race. So let's begin. The Torrolings. The Torrolings are a subspecies of the Torrosans that are significantly smaller and weaker. They also lack horns. Man, that's like the opposite of their culture, which is very interesting. You know, you're already going against the grain here as a Torroling. However, the Torrolings are very fast and agile. Because of this, they are often used as scouts and messengers. One famous Torroling was even used as an assassin by Hoyosna. Okay. Next subspecies, the Zorosan. The subrace of the Torrosan is the Zorosan. The Zorosan are a zebra-like people who branched off from the Torrosan millennia ago. They are nowhere near as strong as their cousins, but what they lost in brawn, they more than make up for an intelligence. They used this intelligence to get a leg up over their cousins, and as a result, nearly all Zorosan are affluent or influential people, while most Torrosan are middle to lower class. Whew. This has resulted in class and racial tensions between the two, which tends to make things difficult between the 2 races to this day. The Zorosan are also the only race with naturally occurring silver eyes. Wait, did y'all work on that? Did y'all collaborate on that? Is that just a coincidence that one race they have gold eyes and this race has this sub race has silver eyes? Y'all had to have planned that. If not, wow, that's awesome. That is. It kind of reminds me of like Tekken. Like in Tekken, wasn't there like a zebra and a kangaroo or something? Anyway, next sub race, the Scraven. Ooh. The Scraven are a sub race of hairless albino Torrosans that have a strange feature. The females have horns. Scraven tend to be outcasted from general Torrosan society and often leave their homes for foreign lands that might have better opportunity and may be more accepting of their differences. It's common to see racial violence toward the Scraven from other Torrosan, but the general populace of Haven never seems to intervene, mostly due to the fear of how physically strong most Torrosans are. If this race gets voted in, that's going to be another fraction of the Torrosan species as a whole warring with each other, man. They're pretty divided. And in regards to that, the females having horns, That is a very hard conflict with the base lore. So how about we would say the Scraven is just you could be born as a Scraven, and maybe the Scraven are why they are outcasted. You know, you're born with you hairless and you're female with horns, and they're like, oh, whoa, like that's weird. I don't know. Yeah, let's go with that. Just so it can coexist with the base lore. So the Scraven, we'll just add that the Scraven, you can be born a Scraven. You can be born a Scraven, a hairless albino Torrosan, and if you're female, you have horns. All right, hey, let's get to voting. Another great batch of lore submissions. If you enjoyed what you heard, then head to the comments section and let the creators know what you feel about their lore. Hit the like button to stoke the flames of creation. Subscribe if you're into stuff like this. And stay tuned as we continue down the road to season 3.